Is it possible to have a Winter World Cup? We are not talking about the World Cup in Qatar that will take place this coming November. This was a World Cup that took place in June as usual, but in the host country, June was the time when winter began. The 1978 World Cup in Argentina welcomed spectators with a snowstorm in early June, creating one of the eternal images of world football. The storm did not just arrive when the finals began. It had been brewing long before. Many believed that this tournament was held only to serve a political regime. Argentina was chosen to host the 1978 World Cup back in 1966, but 10 years later, on March 24, 1976, the government of Isabel Perón was overthrown in a military coup. The head of the armed forces, General Jorge Rafael Videla, subsequently ruled the country through a military dictatorship. Those who opposed the regime were tortured, and many disappeared without a clear reason. In early 1978, Amnesty International reported approximately 10,000 assassinations, 15,000 missing persons, and 8,000 prisoners in this nation. Across Europe, a boycott of the World Cup was also raised before the finals took place. Argentina's head coach, Cesar Luis Menotti, also made no secret of his opposition to Videla's dictatorship. He maintained his stance in interviews, stating, "We are the people. We come from the victim classes, and we represent the only legitimate thing in this country: football. We do not play football for the expensive seats filled with military officers. We represent freedom, not dictatorship." In 2010, Videla was convicted of crimes against humanity and died in prison 3 years later. During the 1970s, many Asian and African nations gained their independence through decolonization struggles. As many as 95 countries participated in the 1978 World Cup qualifiers, and Africa continued to have a new appearance in the finals, which was Tunisia. Asia also had a new representative, as Iran won a ticket to attend the World Cup for the first time. Before the 1978 World Cup took place, most of Argentina's major stadiums were located in the capital, Buenos Aires. Among them, only 2 stadiums were selected to host: the Monumental of River Plate and the Estadio José Amalfitani of Vélez Sarsfield. Boca Juniors' iconic stadium was not selected. Instead, 3 stadiums outside the capital were built. Overall, building new stadiums and renovating old ones cost about $520 million. The first goal of the tournament was scored on June 2, 1978, just 31 seconds after the opening whistle of the France versus Italy match blew. The player who scored the first goal of the tournament was the Frenchman Bernard Lacombe. However, Italy soon regained control of the match and equalized 1-1 in the first half. In the second half, they scored another goal to secure a 2-1 final victory for the Azzurri. Africa had been present in this tournament for a long time, but the teams at that time had not yet been able to achieve any victories. However, with Tunisia, everything was different. Tunisia's victory at the World Cup on June 2, 1978, marked a historic moment for African football. The best result for Africa until that point belonged to Morocco in 1970, when they successfully held Bulgaria to a draw. Even though Tunisia finished the group stage in 3rd place in Group 2, after losing to Poland and drawing with West Germany, this African team still left the tournament with their heads held high. Coach Abdelmajid Chatali of Tunisia said the world tended to look down on African football, and he thought it was time for that to end. After the tournament, the name of Tarak Diab, Tunisia's number 10, became a star overnight at the age of 23. The 1977 African Footballer of the Year was both a man with a kind and forgiving heart and a powerful football player. He charmed the crowds with the quality of his passes and his magical left foot. Diab was one of the top stars to emerge from the tournament. Scotland entered the tournament with many hopes. Their squad featured major stars like Kenny Dalglish and Graham Souness, the men who brought the European Cup to Liverpool in 1978. Coach Ali MacLeod confidently declared that he would return from Argentina with at least a medal. But things did not go as planned. Scotland completely collapsed in their opening match against Peru, suffering a 1-3 defeat despite having taken the lead. Although they managed a 3-2 victory over the Netherlands, it was still not enough for Scotland to advance past the group stage due to goal difference. Coach MacLeod said when the tournament ended that there were still many things to learn. Not only Tunisia, but Iran also made their debut in the tournament. Iran had dominated Asian football since the 1960s, consecutively winning the Asian Cup in 1968, 1972, and 1976. In Iran's first match in the World Cup finals, they suffered a predicted 0-3 defeat when facing the reigning runners-up, the Netherlands. In the match against the Scottish Stars, thanks to the spiritual encouragement of goalkeeper Nasser Hijazi and captain Ali Parvin, Iran resiliently held Scotland to a 1-1 draw. Iran earned their only point, and then it was Argentina. Coach Heshmat Mohajirani stated, "We are learning a lot. Not everything is pleasant. Our players are not at a professional level and have never experienced anything like this before. They have rubbed shoulders with the best teams in the world. Breathing the atmosphere of a major tournament for the first time, you grow 1,000 times over." A World Cup record was set by Rob Rensenbrink in the match between the Netherlands and Scotland, taking place on June 11, 1978. It was a goal from the penalty spot in the 30th minute for the Netherlands, scored with a low shot to the left. However, the winger of Peru did not even pay attention to the feat he had just achieved. Teófilo Cubillas, who was he that he could sow sorrow for the team full of Scottish stars? The Peruvian midfielder was in his second World Cup. Previously, he had scored 5 goals in the 1970 World Cup. Cubillas scored 2 goals in the match against Scotland, including a masterpiece in the 77th minute that left people in awe. He then scored a hat-trick against Iran. The hat-trick helped him become the first player to have 5 goals in 2 different World Cups he attended. Thus, at the end of the first group stage, the second group stage featured 8 teams. Group A consisted of the Netherlands, Italy, West Germany, and Austria, while Group B included Argentina, Poland, Brazil, and Peru. The second group stage was once again a classic rematch of the Copa America between the host and Brazil. The match ended in a 0-0 draw with no winner. Brazil only had opportunities to pass the group stage if they had a 3-0 opening victory over Peru before facing Argentina. It was an extremely fierce defensive match with no fewer than 59 successful fouls. In 1978, coach Claudio Coutinho encountered difficulties in finding a suitable formula for the Brazilian national team. Brazil became indecisive and was no longer as excellent as before. The team's stars, Zico and Ronaldo, simply were not in their best form. Rivellino, at 32 years old, was no longer young and suffered from injuries, so he spent most of his time on the bench. To reach the final, Brazil had to finish first in Group B. In their third match of the second group stage, they won 3-1 against Poland. However, Brazil did not hold the right to self-determination in their hands. They would have to wait for the Argentina versus Peru match to know their fate. And indeed, Argentina understood that they had to beat Peru by at least 4 goals to play in the final. The Tango Dancers won 6-0 against Peru and passed the second group stage thanks to a goal difference of 4-8 compared to +5 for Brazil. Brazil was eliminated without losing a single match. They later finished in third place after defeating Italy in the third place playoff. Coach Coutinho believed that his team were the moral winners of the tournament. Why did Coutinho say that? Because in reality, the match between Argentina and Peru at the end of the second group stage caused a lot of controversy. Rarely had there been so many speculations surrounding a single match. Argentina was forced to beat Peru by 4 goals to reach the final, and Mario Kempes and Leopoldo Luque each scored 2 goals. Suspicion fell on the Peruvian goalkeeper Ramon Quiroga, who actually held Argentine nationality until a few months before the World Cup began. Other rumors suggested that there had been an exchange of bribes between the two nations. The match was allegedly organized to erase part of Peru's debt, that Peru had been given thousands of tons of grain, and even that Argentina's dictatorship had sent political opponents to Peru. Coach Cesar Luis Menotti denied all the bribery rumors. Leopoldo Luque said that, "We simply played a successful tournament." Argentina's success made Mario Kempes more famous in the world. However, Argentina also had an invisible star, Osvaldo Ardiles. He was one of the pillars of the national team. Speaking about his position, he said, "My position is very difficult to describe. Half midfielder, half defender. I am not the type of player who moves wide like the players you see today, but a true midfielder you rarely see appearing in the penalty area. My task was to handle the defensive duties for the number 10 to help him create more pressure." Ardiles was nicknamed Python because his dizzying, zigzagging movements stripped the ball from opponents. As one of the key players, Coach Menotti played him in all matches, except for the 6-0 victory of Argentina over Peru. Standing only 1.69 meters tall, he was called up to the national team at the age of 23 in 1975 and soon became a pillar of the Argentine squad. He was a symbol of intelligent play, accurate passing ability, and the ability to anticipate the opponent. However, Ardiles chose to stay away from Argentina. Ardiles signed a contract with the English club Tottenham Hotspur immediately after the tournament and continued to become a famous player throughout 10 years of playing for the London club. The second group stage also marked an interesting encounter between the two teams of the Netherlands and Austria. For the Dutch coach Ernst Happel, who was Austrian, he would face his compatriot on the other side of the front line. The Austrian coach was Helmut Senekowicz. He had led the Austrian team since 1976. 20 years earlier, Ernst Happel had played for the Austrian national team at the 1958 World Cup in Sweden. At that time, Senekowicz was a striker while Happel was in the defense. Everyone knew that West Germany was the reigning champion of the tournament, but they showed a faded face throughout the 1978 World Cup. This was also understandable because big names like Beckenbauer, Breitner, and Müller had all left the national team. Meanwhile, Paul Breitner decided not to attend the 1978 World Cup. In this transition period, the pressure weighed heavily on the shoulders of striker Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. In the second group stage, with a 0-0 draw against Italy and a 2-2 draw against the Netherlands, Germany still had a chance to play in the World Cup final for the fifth time. They were forced to defeat Austria in hope that other matches took place in a favorable direction for the Germans. However, 2 goals from Krankel and an own goal by Captain Voets caused West Germany to suffer a 2-3 defeat against Austria. This was also the last international match for Bertie Vogts and head coach Helmut Schön. With 2 draws and 1 loss, West Germany finished at the bottom of Group A in the second group stage, while Austria had their first victory over Germany since 1931. While the reigning champion West Germany failed and left the tournament, the Dutch continued to fly high. After defeating Austria 5-1 and drawing 2-2 with West Germany, the Netherlands needed a victory over Italy in the final match to be certain of reaching the final for the second consecutive time. They had a rather bad start when Brandt scored an own goal in the 19th minute, helping Italy take the lead. But Brandt later redeemed himself by scoring the equalizer for the Netherlands in the 49th minute. Despite having the world's best goalkeeper, Dino Zoff, another goal from a distance of 35 meters by Arie Haan put the Netherlands ahead of Italy. This was also the final score of the match. With this result, the Netherlands topped Group A with 5 points and would face Argentina in the final taking place 4 days later. Even the world's best goalkeeper like Dino Zoff could completely make mistakes. The Juventus goalkeeper spoke up after Italy's 1-2 defeat to the Netherlands. "We had a wonderful World Cup, although on a personal level, I did not meet public expectations. They still criticized me for Haan's long-range shot." He admitted that we could have done better, such as winning the right to play in the final, even though winning it would be a challenge because Argentina is very strong and they are playing at home. Sometimes it is necessary to have a bit of luck to bring the Gold Cup home. That was something the Netherlands lacked in both the 1974 and 1978 finals. In the 89th minute, Rob Rensenbrink hit the post of Argentina's goal. The score was 1-1 after 90 minutes of official play. After Kempes opened the score, the Netherlands equalized through a goal from the substitute Dick Nenninga. Entering extra time, Kempes continued to score his 6th goal in the tournament, raising the score to 2-1 for Argentina, and Daniel Bertoni fixed the score at 3-1 in the 115th minute for Argentina. Thereby, they brought Argentina the first world championship in history. The monumental stadium in Buenos Aires seemed to explode with an overflow of paper being thrown. Argentina, along with Uruguay and Brazil, became world champions. Not only having the goals of Kempes, Argentina also had excellent saves from Filol, along with the solid defense of Daniel Passarella and Alberto Tarantini, conceding only 4 goals after 7 matches. The Argentine coach did not even need to call up the promising 17-year-old talent Diego Maradona to the squad. Argentina truly succeeded with their spirit of teamwork and solidarity. After scoring 6 goals, Kempes led the list of top scorers of the tournament. Kempes once said that his mustache had brought him luck and led him to success. The Argentine military once requested the coach to only select players playing for domestic teams, but this manager still maintained his stance and summoned Kempes, who was playing in Spain for Valencia. When returning home to join the national team, his teammates had also become familiar with each other for months, while Kempes only returned to Argentina in May and the World Cup took place in June. However, Kempes said the most wonderful thing was that when he arrived, they treated him as if he had been with them for the previous 3 months. There was no selfishness, no conflicting reactions, and no busybodies. Everyone had the right to speak freely with the coach or simply do their lives well. Kempes' 2 goals in the final brought him the Golden Boot title, reaching the achievement of his compatriot Stabile, who scored 8 goals in the 1930 World Cup. For the Netherlands, having lost the 1974 final to West Germany, this defeat was truly very difficult to swallow. The Netherlands was certainly the best team of the 70s. Even though Johan Cruyff had ended his international career before the 1978 World Cup, the matches of the Netherlands were all very interesting. With players like Rob Rensenbrink, Ruud Krol, the twins René and Willy, and Johnny Rep, they suffered a bitter defeat. Not only because of the loss, but also because of the atmosphere full of hostility and because of the suspicious decisions of the referee. Ruud Krol stated that security was something that did not exist. The Argentine fans were almost out of their minds. What would have happened if we had won? How would we have returned to the hotel? After that, the Dutch national team was upset and did not participate in the closing ceremony. The 1978 World Cup ended, even though surrounding it were many scandals and the political troubles of Argentina. 38 matches took place with 59 yellow cards and 3 red cards issued in total. There were 791 spectators attending the stadiums, and more than that, Argentina became the new king of the tournament right on their home turf. The Netherlands once again missed the appointment with the Gold Cup, while Italy once again left the tournament full of regret. When the World Cup returns to Europe, perhaps peace for the European teams will soon return. 1982 in Spain will once again promise to be one of the most interesting World Cups. If this story changed the way you look at the history of the beautiful game and the shadows behind the glory, please subscribe and like the channel. We are excavating the history they tried to bury. Let's plant the seeds for the future. The next treasure chest of football history will open soon.